Imagine spending your entire life trying to escape the person you were born to become. You change your name, you change your surroundings, you build a new life. You even convince yourself that the criminal world is finally behind you. But what if the past doesn't care how far you run? What if it knows exactly where you're going? And what if the person chasing you isn't just a stranger or an enemy, but a part of yourself? That's where we find Luciana "Lucky" Armstrong as Lucky moves into episode 6. The Apple TV crime thriller has now reached the final stretch of its first season, and with only 7 episodes planned, there is almost no room left for mistakes. Episode 6 is titled Wherever You Go, There You Are, and that title may be more important than it first appears, because Lucky has spent this entire season running from the FBI, running from Priscilla, running from the criminal world, running from betrayal, and perhaps most importantly, running from herself. But the official synopsis for episode 6 gives us one very interesting clue. It says, Lucky must face her past while planning for her future. That's it. Apple isn't revealing much. And honestly, that's probably deliberate, because after everything that happened in episode 5, Lucky is finally standing at a crossroads. To understand why episode 6 could be so important, we have to go back to the beginning. Lucky wasn't simply born into a normal family. Crime was part of her upbringing. Her father, John Armstrong, was a con artist, and her mother, Billie Rand, is an FBI agent. Think about that for a second. Lucky grew up between two completely opposite worlds. One side taught her how to deceive people, the other represented the law, and Lucky learned from both. That's what makes her such a dangerous character. She doesn't simply know how criminals think, she also understands how law enforcement thinks. And throughout the season, we've watched her use that knowledge to survive. But Lucky tried to leave all of it behind. She wanted something different, a normal life, a future, a chance to stop looking over her shoulder. Then everything fell apart. A massive heist goes wrong, her husband Cary disappears with millions of dollars, and suddenly Lucky is dragged straight back into the world she thought she had escaped. But there is one major problem. The money isn't really the only thing people want. They want Lucky, they want Cary, they want answers. And people like Priscilla don't forgive betrayal. As the season continued, Lucky became trapped between several forces. Agent Billie Rand wanted to catch her. Priscilla wanted control. Lucky wanted the money. And Cary wanted his own way out. That relationship eventually exploded. Episode 4 ended with a devastating chase. Lucky and Cary were caught in a deadly confrontation, and Cary was shot. By the time episode 5 began, Lucky was dealing with the aftermath. Cary was gone, the money appeared to be inaccessible, and Lucky was once again alone. But then something unexpected happened. Lucky discovered that the money might not be as lost as she believed. A hidden digital wallet containing nearly $10 million became one of the biggest pieces of the puzzle, and suddenly Lucky had something worth fighting for. But there was another problem. Everyone else wanted that money too. And that is where episode 6 becomes so interesting, because the title isn't simply about running anymore. It's about facing what you cannot escape. Lucky can change her location. She can change her identity. She can manipulate people. She can disappear. But she cannot erase her past. And now, for perhaps the first time in the series, she may be forced to confront it. But what happened next changes everything, because Lucky isn't just trying to survive anymore. She's trying to decide what kind of person she wants to be, and with only 2 episodes remaining after episode 5, that decision could determine how this entire story ends. To understand where episode 6 could take Lucky, we need to understand what she has already lost. At first glance, this looks like a story about money. $10 million, a criminal operation, a dangerous chase. But underneath all of that is a much more personal story. It's about identity. Lucky spent years trying to convince herself that she wasn't like her father. She wanted to believe she could escape the lessons she learned growing up. But every time she finds herself in danger, those old instincts return. She knows how to lie, she knows how to manipulate, she knows how to disappear, she knows how to read a room, and she knows exactly when someone is about to betray her. Those skills keep saving her, but they're also keeping her trapped. Because every time Lucky uses them, she becomes a little more like the person she was trying to leave behind. And then there is Cary. His death changes the emotional landscape of the story. Cary wasn't just another character. He was connected to Lucky's entire attempt to build a new life. Their relationship represented the possibility that Lucky could actually have something normal. But that possibility disappeared with him. Episode 5 leaned heavily into the emotional consequences of Cary's death. Lucky was left carrying grief, guilt, and unfinished business. And then there was the discovery involving the money. A hidden wallet containing almost $10 million means Lucky's biggest problem isn't completely gone. But money has never actually made Lucky free. That's one of the central ironies of the series. She is surrounded by people willing to kill for millions of dollars, yet Lucky herself cannot simply use that money to walk away. There is always another obstacle, another person, another secret, another betrayal. Meanwhile, Priscilla is dealing with her own loss, and that makes her even more dangerous. Priscilla has always been a powerful figure. She understands control, she understands fear, and she understands exactly how to manipulate the people around her. But grief changes people, especially people who are already ruthless. After Cary's death, Priscilla's motivations become increasingly personal. This is no longer simply business, it is revenge. And Lucky may be the easiest person to blame. Then there is Agent Billie Rand. Rand has been pursuing Lucky throughout the season, but their relationship is more complicated than a simple criminal versus cop story. Rand knows Lucky's family. She knows John's history, and she understands the environment Lucky came from. That makes the chase personal in a completely different way. By episode 5, Rand makes a major move. She releases John from prison, and that decision could have enormous consequences, because John is one of the few people who truly understands Lucky. He knows what she learned as a child, he knows how she thinks, and he knows what she is capable of when cornered. So bringing John back into the story isn't just about adding another character. It's potentially about forcing Lucky to confront the person who helped shape her. And that brings us directly back to the episode 6 synopsis. Lucky must face her past while planning for her future. Those two ideas may actually be connected. Her past could be John. It could be her childhood. It could be Cary. It could be Priscilla. It could be the criminal world. Or it could be something we haven't seen yet. And that is exactly why episode 6 has so much potential. The series has spent 6 episodes showing us who Lucky became. Now it may finally show us why. But there is still one question. If Lucky finally faces her past, what does she intend to do with her future?
This is where things become much more interesting, because the biggest mystery surrounding Lucky isn't actually the $10 million, it's Lucky herself. What does she really want? At the beginning of the story, the answer seemed simple. She wanted to escape, she wanted a fresh start, she wanted to leave crime behind. But now, after everything that has happened, that goal may have changed. Lucky has been betrayed. She has lost Cary. She has been hunted. She has been forced to use the very skills she wanted to forget. And she has discovered that running away doesn't necessarily mean you're free. The title of episode 6 says it all. Wherever you go, there you are. You can run across the country. You can change your identity. You can hide from the FBI. You can disappear from criminals. But you still have to live with yourself. That may be the central idea behind this episode. And if that is true, episode 6 could be less about a giant action sequence and more about a psychological confrontation. Lucky may finally have to look at the choices that brought her here. Why did she become a con artist? Why did she trust Cary? Why did she return to crime? Why does she keep believing she can escape? And perhaps the biggest question of all, is Lucky actually trying to escape crime, or is she trying to prove that she can control it? Because those are two very different things. And there is another possibility. Maybe Lucky's greatest advantage isn't the money. Maybe it is the fact that she understands everyone around her. She knows Priscilla's weaknesses, she understands Rand's methods, she knows her father's habits, and she knows how criminals operate. If Lucky can put all of that knowledge together, she may finally be able to design an escape that doesn't depend on luck. But there's a catch. Every plan has a cost, and Lucky's previous plans have already cost her almost everything. So if she wants a future, she may have to sacrifice something from her past. That could mean giving up the money, it could mean turning against someone, it could mean exposing a secret, or it could mean finally telling the truth. And that is where episode 6 could set up the final episode. Remember, the first season has only 7 episodes. Episode 6 is therefore not the conclusion, it is the bridge to the conclusion. Everything that happens here should push Lucky toward the final decision. And that means the most important thing to watch isn't necessarily who gets the money. Watch what Lucky chooses, because her choice may tell us exactly how the series intends to end. There is also the possibility that Lucky's relationship with her parents becomes even more important. Her father represents the criminal world. Her mother represents the law. And Lucky has spent her entire life caught between those two forces. But what if she doesn't have to choose either one? What if the real ending is Lucky finally choosing herself? That would fit perfectly with the story we've been watching. She was raised by criminals, hunted by law enforcement, used by powerful people, betrayed by people she trusted, and yet she continues to survive. That's what makes Lucky so compelling. She isn't innocent, but she isn't completely evil either. She is someone who learned how to survive in a world where morality was never simple, and now she has one final opportunity to decide who she wants to become. But there is still one enormous problem. Everyone else is making plans too. Priscilla isn't finished, Rand isn't finished, John is back in the picture, and the money is still somewhere in the middle of all of this. So even if Lucky finally understands herself, she still has to survive everyone else. And that is where the final act begins. The biggest question is whether Lucky can finally break the cycle. For most of the season, she has reacted to problems. Someone steals the money, she responds. Someone hunts her, she runs. Someone betrays her, she fights back. But episode 6 may be where that changes. Instead of reacting, Lucky may finally start planning. And that would be a major evolution for the character, because Lucky has always been clever, but being clever isn't the same as being free. She has survived because she can think faster than the people around her. Now she needs to think further ahead, and that is much harder, especially when the people around her know exactly how dangerous she is. Then there is the question of the $10 million. Will Lucky keep chasing it? Will she use it as leverage? Will she sacrifice it to save herself? Or will she realize that the money is actually the thing keeping her trapped? That could be one of the most important decisions of the entire season, because if Lucky can walk away without the money, she might finally have the one thing she's wanted from the beginning: freedom. But if she chooses the money, she may be choosing the criminal life all over again. And that's why episode 6 could be more important than a simple penultimate chapter. It could be the moment Lucky finally answers the question the entire series has been asking: can someone born into a life of crime really escape it? Maybe the answer is yes. Maybe the answer is no. Or maybe the truth is much more complicated. Maybe you can leave the criminal world, but you can never completely leave the person that world created. And that's what makes the title "Wherever You Go, There You Are" so fitting. Lucky can run, she can hide, she can change. But wherever she goes, Lucky is still Lucky. And now she has to decide whether that's something she needs to escape or something she needs to accept. The first season has one episode remaining after this.